Have you ever felt that pain in your spine that insists on coming back, even without apparent physical exertion? What if I told you that maybe the problem is not in the vertebrae, but in the soul? It may seem controversial, but the body does not hurt for no reason. There is a warning from the universe behind every persistent discomfort. A silent but powerful message that few have the courage to listen to, and many prefer to ignore. While medicine treats the symptoms, your soul cries out for a forgotten purpose. The weight you feel isn't just physical, it's emotional, spiritual, and even ancestral. An invisible emotional charge may be crushing you without you realizing it. And this spiritual pain in the spine, which seems just a discomfort, can be the blocked spiritual frequency asking you to stop, and awakening. The most curious? Most people think it's normal to feel pain. We learn to live with it, to hide, to follow anyway. But there is a moment when the body just can't stand lying for you anymore. This is where deep spiritual awakening begins. A process that, despite seeming painful, can be the beginning of a whole new journey, with relief, clarity, and meaning. Imagine discovering that constant tension in your back is actually God's voice in suffering. That each twinge is a silent divine call for you to align with your true path. This is not loose mystical talk, it is a concrete, practical, and transformative spiritual vision. Because when you understand the symptoms of the soul, you begin to see your body as a map, not as an enemy. If you've made it this far, it's no wonder. Something in you already feels that there is more to this pain than it seems. So tell me, have you heard what your column is trying to tell you? Comment here, 33, if you feel that this pain has a greater meaning, and that you are ready to find out. It is said that when the soul screams, the body responds, and the spiritual pain in the spine is the loudest echo of this silent call. Many carry back pain that no exam explains, no massage solves. And the reason? An invisible emotional charge, accumulated over years, sometimes lifetimes. The misaligned spiritual spine is like a bumpy road, each step becomes an effort. It is the type of pain that cannot be cured with painkillers alone, because it is not only the body that is asking for help. If you look closely, you will realize that pain begins in the moments when you feel most distant from yourself. When you swallow your tears, when you pretend that everything is fine, when you feel that you have lost your way. The blocked spiritual frequency weighs as much as a bag of cement. But it's not on the shoulder, it's at the center of your existence. That sudden sting, the inexplicable stiffness. These are all symptoms of the soul trying to warn that there is something out of axis. Imagine someone who works all day, comes home exhausted and still feels pain in their lower back. But in fact, this pain is God's voice in suffering saying, "You are forgetting yourself." It is as if each vertebra were a memory, a trauma, a hidden spiritual repression. And when we accumulate too much, the body collapses to remind us that the soul also has a limit. The silent divine call echoes loudest in the silence of the early morning, when there are no distractions to drown out the discomfort. It is curious how people treat back pain as something normal. But is it really normal to live with a tortuous spiritual path, full of burdens that do not belong to us? Many do not know, but the spine and chakras are interconnected. A blockage in one chakra can lock up the energy of the entire body. And then comes the pain, the exhaustion, the discouragement for no reason. Nothing happens by chance when it comes to physical pain that is born on the spiritual plane. These spiritual signs in the body are invitations to listen more deeply. It's not about eliminating pain quickly, but understanding the purpose hidden in pain. Because every pain has a reason, a what for. And maybe, just maybe, pain is the starting point for a deep spiritual awakening, that kind of fresh start that comes not with fireworks, but with a sigh of relief and a new breath of soul. It's not just the weight of the backpack that bends the spine, it's the weight of expectations, of unspoken words, of responsibilities that we accept for fear of disappointing. When someone lives carrying the world on their back, sooner or later, the body will complain. And he complains loudly, with spiritual pain in his spine, with stiffness that is not just muscular. They are spiritual signs in the body that warn, something needs to be released, delivered, relieved. Think of that hunched posture that so many have, even young people. It's not just the ergonomics of the office, it's the bent heart, the faith bent by the pains of life. Those who are too silent, who hold back their tears, who swallow sorrows and say, "It's okay," when it's not, are feeding an invisible emotional charge. And that, my friend, is piling up like forgotten books on an old shelf. Until one day, it collapses. And the most curious? Most people don't even realize how much it affects their walk. They think it's normal to wake up with neck pain or sleep with back tension. But it is not normal to carry spiritual repressions as if they were daily obligations. When the spiritual spine is misaligned, even prayers come out with difficulty. The body freezes, the spirit falls silent, and the soul begins to scream in silence. Do you want to relieve this tension? Start by saying no when necessary. Free yourself from the role of everyone's savior. Surrendering a problem to God is also an act of courage. Say a simple but sincere prayer. Write down what you are choking on. Tell the truth to yourself. These are small attitudes, but they already begin to release the blocked spiritual frequency that you didn't even know was there. Every pain is a reminder. And the more you ignore it, the stronger it comes back. The spiritual spine cannot stand heavy secrets for long. And sometimes, that chronic pain that you've even nicknamed, it's just the soul asking you for a conversation, one of those sincere, unscripted ones. And who knows, in the middle of this conversation, you'll realize that you don't have to carry all this alone. The spine is not just a physical structure, it is a spiritual road. Each chakra, an energy station that, if blocked, blocks the vital flow as if there were a bridge interdicted in the middle of the path. Spiritual pain in the spine often comes from these invisible blockages that only reveal themselves when the soul is tired of trying to warn in whispers. When energy stagnates, the body feels it, it ignites, hardens, weighs. And we, lost, call it stress. Have you ever noticed how, after an emotional trauma, you start to feel pain that didn't exist before? The spine and chakras communicate intimately, like a thread of your consciousness with the divine. A trauma in love, for example, can lock the heart chakra and reflect on the thoracic spine. A loss of purpose locks the solar plexus chakra, and guess what? Low back pain. Symptoms of the soul that conventional medicine does not usually listen to. The energetic healing of the spine necessarily involves making room for the spiritual flow to circulate again. And this can be done with simple and accessible practices, such as chakra-focused meditation, Reiki, or even a conscious walk in silence, where the breath cleanses what the soul has not been able to digest. When you take a deep breath and visualize light flowing down your spine, you are unknowingly adjusting your internal axis. Mindful stretching exercises are also powerful. It's not about becoming a contortionist, but about stretching what life has shrunk. A good stretch in the morning, with eyes closed and focused on breathing, can be the first step to realigning the tortuous spiritual path that brought you here. Remember, where energy flows, healing happens. And where there is stagnation, there is pain, and a silent divine call waiting to be heard. If the spine is the channel, then taking care of it is like unclogging the main pipe of your spiritual house. Don't ignore the symptoms, don't treat with medicine alone. Because, sometimes, what you call back pain is just the soul trying to restart a new cycle, and for that, it needs you to listen to it, and more than that, that you react. When pain persists, it's not just stubbornness of the body, it's insistence of the soul. The universe has curious ways to get our attention, and one of them is through spiritual pain in the spine. If you walk around with constant lower back pain, you may be holding on to the past too much. If it's in the cervical, you may be trying to control the future. In both cases, the present is being ignored. And that's where the universe's alert lies. You know that pain that comes up whenever you're about to make an important decision. It's no coincidence. It's a silent divine call that tries to tell you, stop. Look. Reflect. The body speaks what the mind does not want to hear. And pain, in this context, is like a flashing luminous arrow in the middle of the spiritual road, signaling that something is off course. The misaligned spiritual spine is like a broken GPS. No matter how much you accelerate, you don't reach the right destination. Each vertebra can tell a story. The pride that lodges in the neck, the guilt that weighs on the lower back, the anxiety that binds the shoulders. And while you treat the symptom, the spiritual system keeps crying out for attention. Pain did not come to punish, it came to teach. She is the voice of God in suffering, not as punishment, but as direction. After all, who has never needed a divine nudge to see the obvious? Want a hands-on exercise? The next time you feel the pain come on, stop for 5 minutes. Close your eyes. Ask yourself, what am I avoiding seeing? Write whatever comes up, even if it seems meaningless. Often, this is the first step to releasing an invisible emotional charge. You don't need instant answers, just a willingness to listen to what your soul has been trying to say for a long time. And when you start listening, the pain changes. Sometimes, it softens. Other times, it even disappears. Because, deep down, what she wanted was not to limit you, but to redirect you. And if you have the courage to follow that calling, you may realize that the pain, after all, was only the beginning of a deep spiritual awakening, one that begins in silence but transforms everything around you. There are times when the soul simply decides, enough. And that's when the body feels it. Spiritual pain in the spine appears as a sudden break on the wrong path. You try to follow, force, push. But something gets stuck. That insistent pain, which prevents you from continuing as before, is not weakness, it is a sign that the tortuous spiritual path has reached a point of correction. The soul, wise as it is, uses pain as a brake, as a compass, as a warning. How many times have you ignored the signs because it wasn't the time? How many times have you followed a direction just because it was expected? The spine, in this context, works as an internal aligner. If there are constant falls, stumbles that seem repetitive, you can bet, your mission has been left aside. The blocked spiritual frequency impedes the natural flow of your walk, and each pain is an invitation for you to reorient yourself. Observe the patterns. If every time you try to start a new project you feel a stiffness in your back, maybe the problem is not physical. Perhaps it is spiritual. The spine and chakras work together as guardians of your purpose. And when this purpose is ignored, the body finds a way to remind you. A simple change of direction, a sincere prayer, or a moment of silence can open up paths that were previously blocked. It's not about changing everything overnight, but about listening to what's being whispered in the intervals of pain. The soul does not cry out for no reason. Sometimes, straightening the walk is as simple as going back to doing what was good for you. Call someone, forgive a hurt, write down what is stuck. These are small acts that unlock great healings. Because the path only opens when you tread with truth. And it's curious how, when you accept this realignment, the pain starts to make sense. It does not disappear immediately, but transforms. It goes from weight to direction. From discomfort to purpose hidden in pain. And little by little, you start to feel that something is coming back into place. As if each painful step was actually gently pushing you back to the mission that life wants you to accomplish. There are things that weigh more than stones, the unspoken words. And the spine feels it. The spiritual pain in the spine is often born from that forced silence, from truths swallowed dry, from tears contained in empty nights. The invisible emotional charge lodges itself as an unwanted guest, and the body, with nowhere to put it all, plays on its back. Because the soul, when it has nowhere to speak, communicates through pain. The back hurts when we carry what we shouldn't. That guilt that no one sees, that request for forgiveness that never left the mouth, that prayer that was stuck in the throat. Not praying is like leaving the soul without oxygen. The misaligned spiritual spine reflects this disconnection. Faith that is not exercised hardens the spirit, just as tense muscles harden the body. Everything is interconnected, and it is not by chance. And you don't have to be religious to understand that. It's a matter of energy. When you don't express, you accumulate. When it accumulates, it gets sick. Want to alleviate that? Talk. With God, with yourself, with those who need to listen. Write a letter, even if you don't send it. Say a sincere prayer, without ready-made formulas. Say everything that needs to be said, even if it is whispered through tears. This simple gesture can release a years-old blocked spiritual frequency. Back pain, in these cases, is almost like a second language of the spirit. A language that says, "I'm suffocating in here." The silent divine call does not always come in an audible voice. Sometimes it's a twinge in the middle of the shoulder blades, or a stiffness in the lower back after an emotionally heavy day. Have you ever noticed how your back hurts more when you are silent in the face of something important? This is not a coincidence, it is connection. And when you start to open your mouth, open your heart, make room for the soul to breathe, something changes. Pain does not disappear like magic, but gives way, gives way. The spine, little by little, aligns with what you feel inside. And it is in this realignment that the energetic healing of the spine is born, the one that begins with an outburst and can eventually change your entire story. True healing never starts on the outside. The spiritual pain in the spine is just the final reflection of a process that began inside, well before the first discomfort. When the soul is at war, the body cannot live in peace. It's like trying to keep a house standing when the foundations are cracked. There is no point in painting the wall if the structure is compromised. Healing begins where no one sees, within the spirit. It takes courage to look inside and face what needs to be healed. Forgive those who hurt you. To let go of the control that you insist on maintaining so much. To let go of the need to understand everything. It is in this process that the misaligned spiritual spine begins to rediscover its axis. When you release forgiveness, for example, you're not doing each other a favor, you're lightening an invisible emotional burden that weighs on you. And the most beautiful thing is that the body responds. Sometimes with a lighter sigh. Other times, with a restorative night's sleep after months of insomnia. It may seem simple, but a sincere prayer, an honest conversation with God or with yourself, can be the beginning of an energetic healing of the spine. How? Because the energy that was previously trapped in hurts and fears begins to flow again. Start the day with 5 minutes of silence and mindful breathing. Put your hand behind your back and say out loud, "I choose to let go of what no longer serves me." It may seem strange, but the universe listens. The blocked spiritual frequency begins to move when you move from within. And each little release is like unlocking a forgotten emotional vertebra. The spine, when spiritually healed, becomes a bridge, not a wall. It stops holding on to old pains and starts supporting the new version of who you are becoming. And it is precisely in this silent transition that a deep spiritual awakening is revealed. A realignment that goes far beyond physical posture, it is the spirit straightening itself with its mission. There is pain that is not just pain, it is clamor. The body, exhausted, begins to ask for help when the soul moves too far away from what it came to live here. The spiritual pain in the spine in these cases screams as if to say, hey, you've forgotten who you are. And the more you ignore it, the stronger it gets. It's not about weakness, it's about urgency. The spine freezes because the soul is suffocated, with the purpose tied up in a routine that no longer makes sense. Spiritual signs in the body appear when you are living on autopilot. He wakes up, works, sleeps, repeats. But where is its essence in all this? The spine and chakras, like sensitive sensors, pick up on this misalignment. Pain appears not only as an obstacle, but as a compass. It shows that it is time to stop and listen. Because you can't sustain a body aligned with a misaligned mission. The invisible emotional charge becomes a physical weight. And the soul, tired, begins to give alerts from the universe in the form of symptoms of the soul. That stiff neck on Sunday night? It may just be the despair of the soul to know that another week will start far from what it believes. And if you stop to listen, you may find that it's not just rest you need, it's direction. What to do? Take back the little things that connect you. A forgotten hobby, a moment of prayer, a walk where you listen more to the wind than to your own thoughts. Energy healing of the spine begins with these simple choices. Because it's in those moments that you give voice to the silent divine call, the one that tries to remind you every day that your life has a purpose, even if it's hidden in pain. And if you listen carefully, you may realize that this pain is not the end, it is the beginning. The beginning of a reconnection with your essence, with the mission that moves you, with the spiritual frequency that has been muffled for so long. And in this listening, the tortuous spiritual path finally begins to straighten out. Now that you understand the true meaning of pain in your spine, the question that remains is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Will you continue to ignore the spiritual signs in the body, or will you hear, once and for all, the silent divine call that tries to guide you? Energy healing of the spine does not begin in offices, it begins within. And you've already taken the first step just by being here. How many times have you been silent when you should have prayed? How many times have you held back hurts when you should have forgiven? Your misaligned spiritual spine is a reflection of the choices you have made, or failed to make. It's time to change that. Are you willing to lighten this invisible emotional burden and move towards the purpose hidden in the pain? If your soul has been crying out for purpose and relief, then ask yourself, what still holds you back? What do you need to let go of today to heal tomorrow? Do not underestimate the symptoms of the soul. They are clues, answers, bridges. And you have everything you need to get through them. But it needs to start. It needs to act. You need to accept that your pain has a meaning, and that you can, yes, turn it into strength. Now tell me, which part of your life weighs the most on your back today? Comment here, heal, if you are ready to start this realignment from the inside out. This is just the beginning of a powerful journey. And if you want to continue understanding the secrets behind the pains that no one explains, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications, because there is much more to come. Your body may be screaming, but your soul wants to speak, and I'm here to help you listen.